Yo, what's up everyone? Welcome to Small World and thank you for joining me with today's video. In this episode, I'm going to show you how to make miniature pallets. These are super easy to make and they're very realistic. First, I'll show you how to make a pallet raised up on planks like this one. My pallets are going to be 2 inches by 1 5/8 of an inch. I start by cutting 3 1/16 inch by 3/16 inch balsa wood strips into 2-inch lengths using a razor saw. In my reference pictures, these pallets have notches in the planks that raise up the pallet, so I quickly draw those in place and cut them with an X-Acto Blade. Next, I cut 2 pieces of 1/32 by 3/16 basswood to 1 5/8 inch lengths. I do the same with 3 skinny 1/32 by 3/32 strips. I attached the 1 5/8 inch long pieces to the bottom of our 2-inch notched balsa wood planks. The 2 wider pieces attached to the edge of the planks. Once the basic rectangle is made, I add the 3rd notched 2-inch plank in the middle. Then I add the 3 skinny strips to the middle. The bottom of the pallet is complete and you should have something that looks like this. Now it's time to add planks to the top of the pallet, and I cut 10 pieces of 1/32 by 1/8 inch strips to 1 5/8 inch lengths. I start by gluing 2 pieces to the edges on each side. Then I work my way to the middle, applying 1 piece on each side. If you want to be more precise than this, you can always measure and mark out the spacing first. And here's the first assembled pallet. Next, I'll show you how to make a pallet raised up on wooden blocks. I cut 9 blocks from 3/16 by 3/16 basswood to 5/16 lengths. Then, I cut 3 pieces of 1/32 by 3/16 into 2-inch lengths. Now, I'm attaching 3 blocks to each piece, 1 on each end and a 3rd in the middle. And you should have 3 pieces that look like this. Next, I cut 2 more pieces at 1 5/8 inch lengths, and I connect them to the 2-inch pieces along the blocks. The 3rd block piece is added in the middle. With our block pieces facing upwards, I cover the remaining blocks using more 1/32 by 3/16 inch basswood strips. These are just cut to fit. And here's how it looks so far with the details on the bottom of the pallet complete. Now it's time to add the boards to the top of the pallet, and I do this exactly like last time. Again, I use 10 pieces cut from 1/32 by 1/8 inch strips at 1 5/8 inch lengths. I glue them in the same way too, starting with 2 on each side and working my way to the middle. For added detail, I simulate nail holes by twisting the tip of my blade into the surface of each board. And now for painting and weathering. First, I'll show you how to paint one that's slightly weathered. I begin by applying a generous coat of water to the surface, which will absorb into the wood and make it much easier to paint. I add a wash of vallejo brown mixed with flat flesh and highly diluted with water to the surface. Once dry, I lightly sand the surface to bring out more wood grain texture. Now I'll show you how to make a more weathered pallet, and again, I'll start with a coat of water. Then I apply a watered down wash of vallejo brown and black onto the surface. While the surface is still wet, I apply some watered down black, buff, deck tan, and white to individual planks. This will help simulate old wood that has been dulled by weather over the years. The effect looks really extreme right now, but it'll be much more subtle when it dries. Just be sure to use lots of water when applying these colors. Once dry, I go back and bring out the wood grain with sandpaper again. I noticed that lots of pallets have painted sides, so I added a coat of blue paint along the edges of this one. And here's the final result. Here's the cleaner looking one. Here's the more weathered one, and here's another one I made off camera using the same techniques. I hope you learned something and that you found this video useful. Also, check out these pallet trucks I 3D modeled, printed, and painted up. If you're interested, I'll be posting the 3D files for this guide to my Patreon for you to download and print for yourselves. And speaking of which, here is a huge thank you to my patrons. Thank you so much for all of your support. If you'd like to join them and support me even further, consider joining my Patreon. Along with this 3D model, I offer many others as well as process pictures, early access videos, and much more. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Also, here are some bloopers. I attached the 1 5/8 inch long pieces to the bottom of our 2-inch Now it's time to add the boards to the top of the pallet, and I do this